The music you're hearing right now is made on Patterning, the award-winning circular drum machine, which is now available on iPhone. As beautiful as it is powerful, Patterning is a deep and flexible drum machine that my friend Ben made, and it's unlike anything you've encountered before. It's got an elegant circular interface, and it transforms your phone into a seriously inspiring tool for making beats. Polymetric rhythms, four-on-the-floor dance party jams, laid-back R&B grooves, and ladies, it's Ableton ready. Go ahead and get yourself a copy of Patterning for free on the iTunes Store.
Hi, my name is Hannah Bird, and I'm from Olympia, Washington. Please consider supporting the show by donating at patreon.com/lowprofile. It also helps a lot when you subscribe and give the show a good rating and review on iTunes. If you still see any fellow humans and they might like the show, spread the word in person. The Morrison family will be forever grateful, and it will help Markley to keep spending time on this work. And now, today's show.
Happy apocalypse, everybody! Hopefully you're all being safe, staying home, keeping your hands and surfaces clean, staying healthy and getting plenty of fresh air. I'm Terry Gross. Just kidding, I'm Lonnie Morrison, and you're listening to another fascinating episode of Low Profile with Markley Morrison. Low Profile is the leading podcast delivering discussions and interviews about music's all-time overlooked underdogs, the artists who never get their due, and also Chumbawamba. On today's program, Markley speaks with Danbert Nobacon, who spent 28 years as a founding member of that band who had that song. Danbert talks with Markley about coming of age in the UK when the punk movement first arrived, sewing, anarchy, getting naked, and his proud moment dumping a bucket of ice water on the deputy prime minister. In other words, so fucking fun. If you haven't heard Chumbawamba, here's a clip from their first album. Pictures of starving children sell records.
When you don't want to feed the world, when you just want to feed your bank balance, wash your guilt away. Unilever washers whiter, soap to clean those dirty hands, and a slap for the people who walk the land. Unilever, man-made hunger, soap in our eyes. John West is the best. Also popular. No soap reality. Legal slave trade. Domestic skills on nonsense dead.
Our story begins in Twist, Washington.
So it's eastern Washington, northeastern Washington.
Yeah, so you're sort of here with me in the eye of the storm then, with all this going on.
I actually I have a girlfriend in Seattle, so I was there last week, and then I have twins who are 20, and I had to go get them. My son's in Olympia, and my daughter flew in from Los Angeles. You know, they'd been sent home from college,
Yeah,
so I had to go back again. Yeah.
I'm about to start going over to Evergreen, but it's all going to be online now.
Yeah, my son's taking a year off, I think, but my daughter's doing online classes. But yeah, my son's at Evergreen. He has been.
So am I pronouncing the name Danbert, is it just no bacon, like BLT, hold the bacon?
Yeah, no bacon. Yeah.
That's not your given name, right?
No.
But you've been using that handle for quite a while, I imagine.
Yeah, I don't think I could get rid of it if I wanted to. Yeah, since the early '80s, so whatever that is.
How did that come about?
Just when we were like punk squatters and making cassettes at the time, and I'd written like 4 or 5 songs, and we're doing a cassette release. And I'd just become a vegetarian, so there's this knock-knock joke in England that doesn't really translate here, but I'll try it on you anyway. Knock knock.
Who's there?
Egbert.
Egbert who?
Egbert no bacon. So Egbert in Europe is a name, Egbert.
Yeah, I've heard it.
Yeah.
I've never met one,
So
though.
no. Well, in Germany, and there's some in England actually, but that's just the first joke I ever remember from being a kid, and I don't know. It just at the time it seemed like a brainwave. Oh, I'll just be Dan, but no bacon. So anyway, and Dan was my nickname at school, so that's not even my real name, but.
Wild. Yeah, sometimes, yeah, your friends write your own history for you.
Yeah, definitely.
I have some notes. A lot of it are kind of drawing from your bandmate Boff Whaley's book, Footnote.
Oh yeah.
A lot of great stories in there.
Yeah, Wally is pronounced Wally.
Boff Whaley.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, you frequently appear nude throughout the book.
Yeah. I haven't read it for a while, so since it came out, probably. But yeah.
Well, for me, the story of Chumbawamba kind of starts when like punk rock is just arrived in the UK, and some other guys meet you. They see you wearing a straitjacket. You turn out to be fans of the same band, the
Not Sensibles, yeah.
Not Sensibles.
So yeah, basically we grew up. Boff was like a year older than me. So at high school he was like a year older. So I didn't really mix with him. But then punk rock happened, and it became obvious because people changed their dress sense most markedly. Who were like fellow punk rockers in the high school, and we were kind of ostracized in the beginning. So we kind of, clubbed together, gravitated towards each other. And the Not Sensibles were also, most of them were in that high school, and they started playing shows, and we kind of met, even though we kind of knew each other and the original drummer of Chumbawamba, his brother was in the Not Sensibles, and
right, that would have been Midge, yeah.
Midge, yeah, small town, 80,000 population, punk scene, which kind of, in Manchester, much bigger city, was like 25 miles away, and we could get the bus there and go see punk shows over there. The bigger bands coming through. So yeah, like late 1977, 1978, there was this punk scene coming to the smaller towns in northern England, and we were just the right age, 15, 16, 17. Just perfect we were just lucky to be in that place at that time, I think, and it changed our lives. And most of us are still involved in making music and art in some way.
I can relate. I had a very small, very weird music scene in the Mojave Desert where I grew up, and I'm still friends with most of those people, and they're all still creatives,
Yeah.
It's kind of a blessing when you find some of that, because a lot of people don't.
Yeah.
I don't know if this checks out, but what I gathered from my research is that before the three of you started the group, you were teaching them how to sew their own trousers.
Well, yeah, it's funny. We had this thing. We kind of evolved our own little niche, really. I mean, there was a lot of DIY in the general punk scene, and it was funny. We had a band before Chumbawamba. They were called Chimpe's Banana.
Right, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and we only lasted 18 months and played, 20 shows and did a cassette album. We just, I don't know, we just, my mum always sewed, so I said, oh, can I use your machine? I want to, initially it was late 70s, all the jeans were like flared, wide flares, mid 70s.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, can we turn them into drain pipes? Mum was like, oh yeah, I'll show you how to use the machine. And then from there, I don't know, just my imagination and creativity, I just started adapting clothes. I guess they call it upcycling these days, or actually making things from scratch, you know.
Sure.
And, you know, painting slogans on them and everything, and stenciling.
How about the straitjacket? What was that all about?
It was just like, I don't know if you know, like a parka coat. They have like a quilted lining, like crisscross, and if you turn it inside out, it kind of looks like a straitjacket. So, and I just like sewed buckles on it, and you know, we hung out on street corners, all weird and everything, dressed weird, and people were like, you know, and there was kind of an antagonism towards punk rockers at that time from general society. But I guess that was part of it, trying to be different.
So, did Chimp Eats Banana, did y'all put out some cassettes, or?
We just had one cassette album, yeah.
I don't like girls, I don't like bullshit, I don't like vibes like women. I don't like cars, I don't like money. It's sunny, I go for a swim.
And then it sort of evolved into Chumbawamba, is that right?
It pretty much did, yeah. I mean, there were like 6 or 7 of us, and we were all in that high school, and then 3 of us, basically, you know, we were doing that, you know, in late high school, and then, it's time to go to college, and 3 of us, me, Boff, and Midge, decided they actually transferred into the college I'd applied to, which was in Leeds, a bigger city on the eastern side in northern England. And so the 3 of us were in college together, and we shared this little dorm. And all we did is went to see shows and, like, you know, wrote songs and stuff. And so that is where Chumbawamba really kind of formed. And then, you know, a couple of the girls from Burnley, where we grew up, we kind of invited them to join, and it just sort of continued from there, really.
Wow, and I guess there's often some confusion with how to write or pronounce the band name over the years.
Mm-hmm.
I reckon that probably slowed down in the late 90s, but...
Yeah, we had it on our website for a while, where we collected all the posters and, you know, flyers where the venue or the promoter had spelled it wrong. And then when we became full-time touring in like the mid-90s, we put it in the right area. If you spell it wrong, you have to donate $100 or whatever, £100 to the local spelling bee.
Oh, that was in the rider?
I don't know if anyone ever did it, but people still spelled it wrong.
When you started out, there's a lot of performance art, right?
Yeah, you know, I think there's some on YouTube from the early days. Various, you know, because in those years to get the big clunky VHS cameras.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And they were, I don't know, they were few and far between, I think. We didn't really have one. We didn't make videos of ourselves or anything like that.
Yeah, my folks had one when I grew up, but I'm a little bit younger than you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, somebody wants to film it. It's like a big deal because they've got a camera as well, and they know what they're doing. Though they didn't always know what they were doing, but so I know. Yeah, there is some footage out there, and
you hear that?
Yeah. Where are you?
Out. So I am in downtown Olympia, and
I'm
right on 4th Avenue. So
yeah,
I'm in the.
Oh right, I was just there the other day.
Oh wow!
On Monday. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been here for about 13 years.
Oh, cool.
And I'm recording in my engineer's apartment because he has fled to Texas at the behest of his parents.
Yeah.
So I'm using it as my studio because I can't do this at home because I got a 3 and 5 year old daughter, and
yeah,
they love to barge in.
Yeah, I kind of remember how that goes.
Yeah. But yeah, I was just thinking about the performance art, hanging up a laundry line and pinning up slogans and poetry and just putting on a damn show.
Yeah, yeah, and it's funny. In the very early days, we were the Chimpees Pavana did a bit of theatre as well, and it just seemed natural to us to carry on with that. And then we went to see Crass. They came and played locally, and it was just kind of mind blowing how they basically, they're just playing in like a community centre, but they transformed the stage with the backdrops, and they had like TV screens, and films that they'd made, and it was just that kind of inspired us as well. And not many other people would. I mean, people did the backdrop thing in the anarcho-punk scene in England, but nobody really incorporated theatre, and it took us a little while. We had these great ideas, but we were so kind of wooden on stage. It probably took a couple of years before, especially me, I was like a front person, and I distinctly remember I loved being on stage, but it took me probably 2 or 3 years before I started thinking, I can actually, work with this, because, I didn't have any training in theatre or in music. But then, I did it for 22 years, so you evolve as a performer and creative ideas, and it became, I guess, one of our trademarks,
I'm trying to figure out how to we sort of transition out of the sort of hardcore punk and there was a lot of a cappella.
The club is all there, Lord. Stand up now, stand up now. The club is all there, Lord. Stand up now. The club is all there, Lord, to keep all men in awe. But they no vision saw to maintain such a law. Stand up now, diggers all.
It sounded really nice, and for a bunch of self-proclaimed non-musicians.
Yeah.
You guys were very diverse from the get-go, and like you got your hardcore, a cappella, like sort of traditional folk, disco, dub, like everything's on the table.
Yeah, I think that's right, and that was probably another one of our, if we had an ethos, it was like, right, we're doing a tour or we're doing a record, and we want to try and make it interesting for whoever's listening or coming to a show. So the theatre and everything, but the sound as well, and we grew from 3 people very quickly to 6, and then 8, and that's a lot of different influences musically. We had and after the initial punk thing, where it's like reject everything that's happened, it's like, there's people in musical history who were doing similar really cool things. For instance, like the Mothers of Invention, Frank Zappa. We had a phase of like really the early albums where they were kind of political as well.
Yeah, I grew up in the city where Zappa and Beefheart grew up, and so there was still weird stuff going on there in the '90s. Cut you off there.
No, and a lot of those early Zappa albums, all the songs run into each other. So we started doing that on our albums, and sticking little weird bits in as well as just normal songs, and grabbing recordings of people, commentators or politicians, and juxtaposing them with our whatever we're trying to say, and it just made it way more interesting for us, and hopefully for people who listen to the records. And it was also, we grew up with the Beatles, and if you look at the Beatles albums, every album there's some significant, apart from the first couple, where they think, well, right, we're going to try experiment with the sound and try something different.
Yeah.
And they do, and there's like an evolution through their albums, and you can see it. And so we kind of aspired to that as well. If we were doing all right, we've got to make it different from the last one in some way. And some people love that, and some people are like, oh, they want the old stuff or whatever it is. And but that's kind of inevitable, really. But for us, I mean, that's partly why it remained interesting for so long, because we tried to shake it up a little bit for ourselves.
So I remember I was a teenager when you guys had a 500 million selling album, and by the way, this podcast is generally focusing on artists who have maybe sold 500 albums. So,
oh yeah.
it's quite different, but I feel like the story behind it is just very vital, and just that that's sort of what you came out of, and that's where that's the background. But I was train hopping in the South, like in Florida. I was riding freight trains after being at the International Noise Conference, trying to figure out how I was going to get back to Olympia. This is about maybe like 14 years ago. And this punk kid we ran into from Vermont had just this big, like, really cool as shit looking Chumbawamba patch homemade on his back. And he had some tapes, and I had a tape player, and he sort of hit me to the evolution of it all. And told me that when you guys hit it big, you were donating to a lot of nonprofits, and I read that you bought a really cool vacuum cleaner.
Is that in the book?
That's in the book.
Allergies. We're like the Rolls Royce of vacuum cleaners. But I mean, we were a band for 15 years before we had that big album. So
Right.
we basically, our evolution, like I said, we started off making cassettes, and then we had like a 7-inch vinyl EP on our own label, and then we found like a distributor for the first album, and so it was like a small indie, and then the next record company a little bit bigger, and then a very established indie label in England who had Björk on their books. And we were with them right before we had the big album. In fact, we were recording it for them, and they were running out of money, and so they were dumping bands. And
That was One Little Indian?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then so we had this. Well, we had to finish that album with our own money, and it's like, well, we had really kind of astute management who was circulating that album, and suddenly it was like major labels chasing us, but not from England, because in Britain, people, Chumbawamba,
You had a reputation there.
political, yeah. Even though we'd occasionally get played on the radio, but none of the English companies were interested in us. So it was kind of really clever in a way on part of our management, because these European companies and the Americans kind of got in a bidding war with each other. I know it was basically because the album, we'd recorded the album, and that song was being circulated in the industry. I don't know how this all works. Probably very different today. And suddenly, in the US, there was a guy, I can't remember his name, but he worked for VH1, is it? And he was employed by Universal as his official title was Tastemaker.
Okay.
You can believe that.
Wow.
And he basically said to the guys at Universal, if you do one thing this year, sign this band on the basis of that one song.
Wow.
And they did. They bent over backwards to sign us, and we had a few offers, and we signed with them because it was the most, it gave us the most artistic freedom.
I'd like to interject that Tastemaker sounds exactly like a song title that you guys would come up
Yeah.
with.
Yeah.
And I also want to point out that you keep referring it to as that song, and I think it's fine to just leave it at that. At this point.
And we, when we were in that time period where suddenly these big companies are chasing us, and we're like, this is insane. This is absolutely insane. Why? What's going on? And we had band meetings, which we always did, and some of us were like, no, we're not going to sign with a major, and some of us are saying, well, let's just do it, and it'll last for a year, and we'll have a really good time, and they'll dump us, which is kind of what happened, but it lasted a little bit longer, and it obviously snowballed way beyond anything we would ever have imagined.
Right.
I mean, it's still today, that one song, I get my royalty statements, and, 95%, we have like 200 songs or whatever, and
Sure.
95% of it is from that one song. And it's insane 20 years later, and it's split between 10 people, 8 people in the band and management, and, it's not enough to live on, but it gives me the freedom of thinking, right, I don't have to work 40 hours a week, I can work 20 hours a week, and 20 hours a week trying to do music or art. It just gives me a little bit of a cushion.
This day and
obviously
age,
now
you're
I'm not
lucky to
working
walk.
20 hours a
Yeah.
week because I work in a cinema and I work in a high school, and they're both closed.
Oh gosh.
But
Yeah, I work in
Yeah.
a bakery, and I'm down from full time to 16 right now, and
Yeah.
we're hoping for the best. We're technically considered a grocery store at this point.
Yeah.
Takeout only.
yeah,
So we're feeding our neighborhood, but
that's good. Yeah.
yeah, it's rough times. I know that you're working on some new music. I was checking out your latest single, Elect a Clown, Expect a Circus.
Elect a clown, expect a circus. Elect a clown, expect a circus. For decades of denial, some three-ring circus trick. Enter that clown creepy, a two-bit apprentice. Juggler, juggler, juggling with the future.
I've continued, after Chumbawamba. I thought I was going to write books. I did write one book. But I very quickly fell back into playing solo shows, which I'd done in the early days alongside Chumbawamba. I make albums. So the last one was 2017, and then I kind of did a re-release last year. But then we have this new double album that's coming out, well, probably around May, maybe June, officially, but it'll start circulating soon. And it's basically all the stuff I've written since Trump got elected. And it became, I didn't even know it was going to be a double album, but there's all these little theatrical bits, kind of like some of the Chumbawamba albums.
Right.
But it's like pure theatre, a lot of it. And they have music behind most of it. And there's probably like 17 characters on the record, and so I'm thinking, it's 2020, it's election year, and I have all these songs, and it takes me back to, punk protest during the Reagan years, really, Reagan Thatcher, Trump. And I thought, well, it's going to date really quickly, so I kind of wove these, like, 3 narrative threads around it. I'm totally pleased with it.
I can't wait to hear the rest of it, honestly. I think
Yeah.
it's very poignant.
Yeah, and it's very appropriate for what is going on.
And might I say, the music video is very disturbing.
It's disturbing. Yeah, you put it. It's weird. We did it last year. We first put clown makeup on. We have a friend who does makeup, and it instantly changes you, and it's creepy. It's creepy. You like catch yourself and you're like, oh God, I look so creepy, and you pull a face, and it's even creepier. But it just kind of fit as a metaphor for how, and even today, what's going on today, even, and what's been going on with the Democratic primaries out. They've pushed Joe Biden to the front, but he's absolutely AWOL. Where is he now? He's just,
Yeah.
nobody can find him, or he can go in front of a camera for like 7 minutes, and then
Yeah, he's hiding out.
yeah. So yeah, and it, it's because whatever is in me that makes me want to create. It seems that music or theatre is the best vehicle. And it's funny, Chumbawamba were theatrical, and we had these characters in songs and costumes, and I made some of the costumes or whatever, or made some of the props. And since moving here to Twisp, which is a small town, but is like a little semi-progressive pocket in a wider eastern Washington, which is very Republican. And they have a theatre, a community theatre. They have two, actually, which is unbelievable. And, somebody said, oh, we're doing Christmas Carol, Scrooge, and it's Charles Dickens, and you're English, and you used to being on stage. You've got to be in it. And so they convinced me, and then I did another play, and I really enjoyed it. And I'd never done proper theatre before at all.
Right.
And then, like, I see in the local newspaper, oh, we need a drama coach at the high school, and I applied, thinking, and I got the job. I don't think anyone else applied, basically, because it's part-time and crap pay. But I've been doing that now for 7 years, and now I do it with an English teacher as part of a class. I don't have a teaching certificate, but I get away with it because I'm drama coach, like a sports coach kind of.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, and we've done some interesting stuff here, but so now and Kira, who's in the video, we met on stage we were in a play together, and it just we were out drinking one night, and she was there with her friends, and she just jokingly said, "Oh, damn it, do you need a backing singer?" I said, "Actually, I do, because I had this show, and the guy wanted the full band from the 2017 album." And it's when I make albums, I recruit people, and because I know it sounds way better if you have like a full band and singers on it and everything. But I was never like a band leader kind of guy in Chumbawamba at all.
Right, that was a split duty operation.
Yeah, and so I've had to kind of learn that, and I can do it to make records, but I can't get a band together to go on tour. It's just financially prohibitive, especially where we live. And so we do a local thing with three of us, and then sometimes me and Kira go on tour as a duo. We played in Olympia a couple of times, actually, last year and the year before.
I know. I guess I'm just out of the loop. I haven't been performing really since I had children. I kind of that's why I'm doing this now instead, sort of.
Yeah, that I was the same. My kids were born in 2000, and Chumbawamba, we all had kids at roughly the same time in Chumbawamba after the big album.
Mm.
And we kind of, it really changed the way we did things. We didn't do tours. We made albums and the odd music video, and kind of for a few years just played festivals in the summer. So it was just like weekends during the summer. The rest of the time we were at home. And we could do that because we were getting paid well and everything. And then we moved here, and I was kind of the stay-at-home dad, and the mom went out to work. Mm-hmm. But as they get older, especially when they get into teenage years, suddenly I have a bit more time where I can, write songs or play a show even, And so, yeah, the last few years I've kind of upped my game a little bit, putting stuff out and playing more. And it's cool, And, I have a couple of tours booked, but starting in June, we were supposed to come play in Olympia, actually. But as of this moment, I don't know if they're going to happen. They haven't cancelled them officially, but
yeah,
I
they
wouldn't
haven't
be
canceled
surprised.
that far ahead yet. But
no, stuff in May is starting to be cancelled here. Other art events, but we'll see about that.
So with the full-time Chumbawamba thing, when When did that start for you, and how long did that last? Where like a full time gig, all you were doing?
Okay, so yeah, we our first show was in the beginning of 1982, and basically for 10 years we did it part time. We all had other jobs, or were in school, or in the early 80s you could get unemployment and basically do whatever you wanted. It was hardly any money, but we were like, yeah, we can live off this. We all shared a house or whatever. And that got more and more difficult, and people got more and more serious about college stuff or career maybe paths, and we'd like all take our vacations at the same time so we could go on tour for a few weeks or whatever and do these other shows. And some years we played a lot, and some years we didn't, and we'd make records. And it got to a point where we said, and it's like when I turned 30, coincidentally, right, we have to do this properly or give up. And we had a couple of meetings, and basically we all decided to try it, just give up our jobs or school or whatever and try being a band. And we got this agent. We'd always booked our own shows prior to that, and he was absolutely shit. So he lasted about 6 months, but then this other agent kind of headhunted us because we had a pretty decent following. We'd get like 500 people at a show or 1,000, and we had records that were out there and people bought them, but we never really made any money from doing it. We just put it into the next record or whatever. Or we had a van, we bought a van, or a computer, we had all these, things you need. And anyway, Paul, the new agent, was fantastic, and suddenly we were like playing 120 shows a year starting in 1992. And as a result of that, the albums sold way more, and we actually started making money off the records and getting paid for playing shows. And none of us had kids, and we were still probably mostly had cheap rent, and we could do it. We were doing that, I guess, for 5 years, and then we had the big album, and then it just kind of exploded in a different way.
And then I feel like maybe the peak of your career is when you got the opportunity to dump a bucket of ice water on the Deputy Prime Minister.
Yeah, one of them, definitely. We were always we had that prankster element, and it was just like, suddenly we were on this much huger platform, and it was like the British equivalent of the Grammys, and we're invited. We're like, oh, we don't want to play the record company. Oh, you got to play it. Okay, here's a budget. You can do, build a stage set. And so basically, we employed the guy who made our music videos. He made these films to project behind us, and it was all footage of the what were they called? Reclaim the Streets. So it was like pre-Occupy movement, but a similar thing in England. Like environmentalist, anarchist kind of movement. And there was all this protest footage, and we played, and we changed the words to the song, and like we did sometimes in live settings. And we're thinking, yeah, we've made a statement, and it's like this huge event, and like Spice Girls are there, and British actors hobnobbing, and politicians. And as the night goes on, and they provide food and drink, you get more drunk. And I was always the one in the band, if there was a dare, I was kind of the most easily convinced to do it, the whole naked things and everything. It was usually because some of the other guys put me up to it. And same in this instance, Paul, the bass player, said, oh, look, John Prescott's there. And he's like the equivalent of the vice president here. And at that time, his department were basically, and we'd done a huge benefit for Liverpool dock workers who were being shafted by the government. And it was when Tony Blair's government was pretty new. They hadn't been in power very long. So people were still like, when Obama got elected, oh, yeah, it's a great time of change and hope. But it wasn't. And we kind of knew that, and a lot of people on the left knew that. So it's like, yeah, well, so what do we do? Oh, there's these huge buckets where they have the chilled champagne and wine, and they just at the end of the night, they're just full of ice water. And so, oh, throw it on. He's there. He's like 10 tables away. Just go and throw it on him, damn it. And Paul and Alice had one from behind, and they're probably actually getting more wet, but he could see me. So, and it caused a huge fuss, obviously. I tried to get away, and the police, the plainclothes police, jumped me, the security people, and, you know, they, like, held me for an hour. And they're like, oh, we're going to throw the book at you. And then he comes back, you know, the whole head of, like, I guess like an FBI kind of guy equivalent. Oh, well, we have to let you go because Mr. Prescott doesn't want to press charges, but we know you are, kind of thing. And kind of unbeknown to me, really, you know, the next week, go back to the hotel and carry on drinking and fall asleep. And the next morning, the phone starts ringing at 8 in the morning, and I'm literally on the phone for like 3 hours fielding calls, you know, because the newspapers, because there was no big news story that day, the next day, it was like front page news.
Wow.
And then I think, oh shit, I better ring my mum and dad because they're going to find out about it. And I talked to my mum, and the press, you know, the Gutter paparazzi press, were on my parents' doorstep at 7 in the morning.
Oh my God.
And they took the way in, and, you know, my mum makes them cups of tea and gives them biscuits and shows them like old school photos, and suddenly there's just pictures of me from being a teenager, and you know, twisted stories. You know, they completely exaggerate details and everything else. And it was interesting, you know, to see how that all works, like firsthand. And it lasted, I don't know, like a week or whatever. And we went on tour to Japan, so we missed a lot of it.
Wow. So was it good publicity?
Yeah, and the record company, like, oh, you've got to apologize because his wife got wet. You know, you were terrorizing the women. We're like, no way, he deserved it. And they sent him flowers, but we didn't. We refused to apologize because it was a statement, you know. And but we quickly learned, you know, we were like, you know, I said, we said we'll sign this deal with major labels and we'll have some fun with it. And we basically burnt all the bridges pretty quickly. You know, we were on David Letterman. We changed the words to the song. So we're singing Free, Move Me, or Abby Jamal. And, you know, we got, after that, and because of the thing in Britain, the American record company wouldn't invite us to the MTV Awards because they were frightened we'd do something. And, you know, Letterman were furious with us. Yeah. I think the video got nominated or something. No, I don't know. But basically, you quickly realize that when you're in that world, if you don't play by the rules, like most of those bands do, you know, the classic example being U2, you know, Bono having his picture and hanging out with George W. Bush.
Yeah.
If you don't play the game, then very quickly you don't get invited back. And if you question that system, you get ostracized. And we knew that, and we didn't care. We just thought, right, we're making a statement. You know, we have to do this. We have this platform, and we have to use it in some way. And it reminds me now of what is going on, like with Bernie Sanders. You know, he's alone amongst the Democrats. He's questioning the system, and you're not allowed to do that. And that's why they've been so. The establishment, you know, the mainstream media have been, you know, basically stop Bernie. And even if it means Trump gets re-elected, stop Bernie, because that he's challenging, you know, the status quo, you know.
Yeah.
And a lot of these people, some of the Democrat, you know, DNC establishment, they've had a very good life while Trump's been in power because they can get loads of donations and they don't have to work too hard. And some of them really don't care if he gets re-elected. You know,
yeah.
As long as they stop Bernie, because Bernie and the movement which is unusual. I've never seen anything like it in my lifetime in England or US.
Me neither.
Where there's thousands of people who are donating and saying, yeah, we want actual change. And the coronavirus thing now, it's like they're all, not that they'll necessarily act upon it, but they're all suggesting things like, yeah, we can give people $1,000 or whatever it is. Whereas, all through the primaries until like a week ago, it's like, oh, Medicare for all, how are we going to pay for that? How are we going to pay for that? But now it's like, yeah, if
We have to.
Yeah, and it maybe, just maybe, because this is happening all over the world, it won't go the way it usually goes, because this is so unprecedented. There's a chance that people, and we haven't even got the tip of the iceberg yet of what's going to happen with the virus in this country. They're saying like maybe a month or 6 weeks is when it's going to be a total having exponentially exploded. And people are writing about it, on the left and progressives, and maybe there's enough impetus to actually, destabilize the system that we've had for 40 years. But who knows? Because we know that won't come without a fight. But
Right.
they're not going to give that up easily.
Well, I know that people are, scraping by all over the place. And in Boff's book, there was a really good trick that you guys used for your mail order. And I was wondering if you could talk about that. Involving soap?
Oh, so people did. It was like, in the early days of the anarcho-punk rock scene, whenever, before email and computer, before cell phones. So basically, we'd organize gigs by snail mail or send cassettes out by snail mail. And maybe book tours by going to the call box on the corner of the street, book shows or whatever. And I don't know where it came from. It was just like in a punk scene. So if you you put the stamp on there, and if you rub some soap over it, they postmark it, and then you can scrape the soap off, and there's no postmark on the stamp, so you can reuse the stamp. So it was just like a total DIY punk thing to do for a while. And then I think the post office obviously caught onto it, and I don't know if they changed the ink they use or whatever, or they just sent it by. They refused to deliver it. I think that's what they did. So it lasted for a while. And we were like, basically squatting in a house at the time with little money. So if we can save a few quid on stamps, we'll do it. But yeah, I think there's going to be a lot more things like that where people just have to improvise with whatever is around to get by, And it's so weird that, because we have to try and distance from each other, maybe the way it goes is the people who get it and get over the virus, then they don't even know the science of it, but one assumes that once you've had it, you're not going to get it again, so you can go help people properly. But who knows about that?
Hopefully that's the case.
Yeah, and I know, I've read friends who are involved in, like, helping community. I mean, where we live here, people live more spaced out anyway, but we have had, and coming from England, it was an absolute learning curve for me, but we didn't really have it last year, but the 3 previous years and then the gap and the one before that, we had very unprecedented wildfires. And from that, the community here, which, because it's a small town anyway, we're probably a lot more close-knit. Even though there's people on the political spectrum from, fundamentalist Christian, Trump supporters, to liberals, to progressives, to lefties like me. When that happens, you kind of have to work together, because we're all in the same boat. And it's kind of the same with this, I think. Some of the hardline political differences you've got to kind of put to one side to try and deal with the reality of getting through the day, you know. You know, I think the communities here learned a lot from the fires, and so now that this is happening, we have a bit of a experience, maybe, even though this is completely different. But just in realizing that, you know, yeah, you've got to try and help people out if you can.
Yeah. You know, one weird thing I've noticed is I do tend to walk a lot in my neighborhood, and it's been so gorgeous weather out here, like uncharacteristically so. We're like verging on summertime over here. And normally when you walk around and it's a beautiful day and you see a stranger in the neighborhood, you like maybe smile and nod, you wave. It's like a pleasant, distant, nonverbal interaction. It's it's become more distant, and if you make eye contact, you just look at the other person and they look back at you and you're both saying, "Man,
Yeah.
this sucks."
Yeah, it's funny. I had a cough the other day, 2 days ago. I started with a cough. I'm like, right, I've just got to stay in. You know, it'd been.
I gotta sterilize my phone.
I went to the store the day before that, and you know, the main store in Twist. He's really kind of, because of the fire thing. That was the community hub when we had the fires. You know, they had information tables there, and after the first year, he you know, because as soon as we have a fire, the electricity for the whole valley goes out. If the fire burns through a pole, because it's all over red lines. But basically, the guy, he got generators so people could still get supplies, you know, and you could still get gas or whatever. And it's kind of the same now. They're kind of holding down the fort, really, because pretty much everywhere else is closed, or just like you guys doing takeout.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, it's a whole new ball game, as they
Yeah.
say over here.
So yeah, I wonder if that'll change. You know, like, because we're like, yeah, like I got the FedEx gig. FedEx guy came with a box for me today, which I'd ordered like a week ago. And I didn't think they were even going to bring it, but he did. And you know, I went out to meet him on the porch, and we just kind of. He didn't put it. He had one hand on the box, and I had my hand on the other end of the box, and I tried to say, you know, I said, like, thanks, I totally appreciate you coming out, and he like nodded.
Yeah. It's just shit you never thought about before.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Danbert, normally these shows are sort of meticulously edited and full of clips, and I spend, you know, upwards of, you know, 5 to 10 hours of editing work, but I'm trying to get this out in a timely manner.
Okay, yeah.
And I was just wondering if you might want to suggest a song or two that people who maybe had no idea about anything besides that one song, what, like a couple tracks that might be really representative. And I have my own opinion, but I'd like to hear what you think.
That's yeah. What did you come up with? For me, it would be. Do you know the WYSIWYG album? The album after the big album.
Yeah.
So that is my favorite album, probably. If I had
It's
to
a
pick
very
one.
good one.
Yeah. So anything off that.
My psychic makeup, it's all over the place. Your life is a dream, then you wake up. You watch Friends together, then you break up. I'd like to thank you all through this flood of tears.
Lambert No Bacon, it has been such a very informative and lovely conversation with you. I really appreciate you taking time to share with us.
Cool.
Do you have anything you want to plug?
I say I should send you a couple of tracks from the new album. I'll do that.
Yeah, please do.
You know, I'll send you like like probably the next lead track, and then maybe a couple of the little theatre bits, just so you get an idea of that it's not just like a straight record. But yeah, I'll do that.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, well, it's been a pleasure. Maybe I'll run into you someday when you're around Olympia and we're not quarantined.
Yeah, if things kind of, calm down a bit and we can move around a bit more, we'll definitely be back in Olympia sooner or later.
Great.
I'll keep you posted.
All right. Well, thanks again. You have a lovely night and stay safe.
You too. Thanks. Appreciate it, Mark. Take care. Bye.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
Rewind back to 1971.
To chart the origins of this most recent chapter in the mamocratic rise of oligarchy in the United States,
Conservative think tanks.
fawning over the free market fundamentalism of Milton Friedman,
Look him up.
and the infamous Lewis Powell memo,
Look it up.
sent to the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, urging that business should assiduously learn the lesson that political power must be cultivated and used aggressively and with determination, without embarrassment.
Do the math. Plot it on a graph.
The neoliberal dance of the goalposts over time, which put Obama to the right of Nixon,
Testable in the equation that correlates escalating profits for big fossil fuel with greenhouse gas emissions going through the roof of our narrow and fragile atmosphere.
demonstrable in the paradigm that it takes over 30,000 workers earning annual median income to add up to one person becoming a billionaire.
So science and critical thinking are under attack because why?
No.